Man, it's been a few months, too long, because yeah, I mean you're a regular on here, and yeah, there's a lot going on. Does it feel like a lot going on today or lately?
You know what's funny is whenever I, I do a live stream with my friends on Thursday nights, the Old Glory Club, and we were going over on Tuesday nights. We always talk about the stories we want to talk about, and inevitably lately we've like looked at the stories and we've been like, oh, this is slop. Oh, there's so much slop out there. I mean, it's just, and slop meaning it's really just like maybe like at worst just they're putting it out there because they know it's like it's hyperbolic and it's sensational and people will watch, or it could be a complete distraction from something else that's happening. But most of the stories that I've seen coming out just seem like complete slop lately. So I haven't really sometimes on my Sunday live streams I'll talk about current events, but I usually do that on the live streams in our Old Glory Club live streams. But I'll talk about current events with you. We can slop it up all day. We could roll around in it like pigs right now.
I mean, the Trump Elon thing. I'm watching this. I'm watching this unfold, and they're going. Trump's going on video, and then Elon's responding on X, and I'm like, okay, does this just seem weird? Like they were inseparable to the point where Elon is at Mar-a-Lago with him during Thanksgiving, and he's got Doge. He's in all went through all these departments, and now it's like this dramatic Jerry Springer or something.
Well, I mean, all right, let's remember. Let's remember who Trump is, what his attitude is. If someone even slightly, and it doesn't matter if the person's in his orbit, even if the person's in his orbit, staying in his guest house, if they slightly go against him, he gets hyperbolic. And then you have Elon Musk, who is autistic, who is seems very like has problems with social norms, and yeah, I mean this is what's going to happen. I think Elon. One of the problems with Elon is he decided he wanted to get involved in politics. And because he really hasn't been a partisan for either side for a very long time, he doesn't realize that if you're going to side with Trump, there is this whole army of lunatics out there that are going to attack you. And not only lunatics, but I mean people with considerable means. So, when you see a Tesla dealership getting attacked, if you believe that that was like 10 people locally who just organized, got together and called each other like, let's go attack. Well, no, that's organized. It's done from the top down. Some kind of elite, paying for this, or, in a lot of cases, it could be a government organization doing it. We saw what USAID is. And I don't think Elon realized that there are people out there who don't like Trump who can tank your stock to a certain extent, mess with you financially, mess with your investors financially, because basically anybody who buys a Tesla stock is an investor. There are people, and any Tesla dealership you're talking about, usually when dealerships are private individuals, you either have a dealer principal or, an outright owner. I mean, I don't think someone like Elon who, can say out loud to Tucker Carlson probably a year ago that, yeah, these people want to throw me in jail. I don't think he realizes that these people, like the enemy, the regime, the people who want, to keep transing kids, and the people who want to, basically destroy everything in their sight, these people will kill you. They want people dead. I look back to, I think of these people as Bolsheviks. I think of these people as, the left in the Spanish Civil War. That they just marched people out into the street and killed them. If they thought they could get away with this right now, they would. And I think they can, if they're not defeated, they can get away with it in the future. Elon didn't know what he was getting into. And Trump, I mean, Trump is Trump. you know that if you mess with Trump and you say one bad thing about him, that he's going to attack you, and he's going to attack you endlessly. And sure, you may be friendly again in the future, but for now, he sees you as his enemy. And I just don't think Elon knew what he was getting into, because Elon has been this, just this autistic Howard Hughes kind of character with less, you know, with less charisma, who, I mean, he thought he could play the game. Obviously, he can't play the game. Obviously, he can't deal with the consequences that come along with becoming a political partisan in some way. And I'm not talking about like historical partisans where it's like I'm taking the stance and I've already decided that this stance is going to get me killed. I'm going to act as if I'm already dead, and that's how I'm going to function from here out. I'm talking about just somebody who takes a side in this. So yeah, I mean, you see, if he was a real partisan, he would double down and be there 100%. But he's not. He's just an autistic geek, and yeah, it seems like he's maybe thinks to himself, "Oh, I have all this money. The president. I see that the president of the United States really doesn't have the power to change a lot of things, so I'll just start speaking out against him." And then it just turns into slop on Twitter and on social media. But I mean, it is what it is, and I don't think it's the end. I mean, if this could change policy somehow, if this rift could change policy, could cause a war somewhere, I'd take it a lot more seriously. But just trying to explain where I think Musk is coming from, and I think we know where Trump is coming from. So yeah, it just seems like typical, insanity in social media insanity in the modern day.
In the United States, right? I mean, it just this is the state of where we're at today, and this is another example of it because people. I mean, I brought it up to you, so I mean, I've gotten sucked in, but people they grab those clickbaits, man, like likes and sharing, and now he's the biggest platform in the world, and he can use it for. I mean, it shows you how powerful it is. This episode is brought to you by McIlvaney Financial Group. Their advisors bring a depth of knowledge and experience that allow them to serve their clientele with care, ensuring their financial needs are met now and in the future. Personally, I'm not saying cash is worthless, but you can see what's happening. It's worth less every year. Gold is the opposite. Click on the promo link in the show notes or go to www.mcilvaney.com/coffeeandamike.
Yeah, and I'll just give you an example. I said that slop could be something that is just sensational, or it could be distracting. Yesterday, Nima Parvini, who goes by academic agent, released a video detailing from a book that they wrote bragging about it, what the community rights service, community resource service, something like that, the CRS has been doing. It's part of the Civil Rights Act. And basically, when you see, so I'll give you two ends of the spectrum of things that they do. They've been doing since 1965. When you see a white kid, a white parent whose kid was just killed by black people, or a black person, when you see that person be interviewed in the press, and they're saying, this isn't about race, we can't make this about race, and they're just like mea culpaing, and they're not saying anything about, they don't appear to have any anger about what happened. This organization goes in there and basically threatens people and says, you can't do that. If you do that, we're going to come down on you with a mighty force. They're also responsible for a lot of the, but they can go in the other direction. They're responsible for a lot of the propaganda that happened around the Trayvon Martin, this psychotic kid who tried to kill somebody, who was looking for apartments to break into, the Michael Brown case in Missouri. They then in the opposite direction, they will go there and they will foment hatred. They will foment basically what we found out is all these things that we thought, oh, George Soros is funding these things. No, it's a government agency that's secretive. You can't FOIA request them. And yesterday, Nima Parvini, academic agent, put out a video exposing it. Orrin McIntyre retweeted it and did a tweet thread detailing a lot of what they do from the research he's done. And Orrin McIntyre, within an hour, got a call from the Office of Management and Budget in on the Capitol Hill and said, "Yeah, we're defunding that thing." So, I mean, this is a big deal. These are the kind of people who an organization like this, community, I think it's called Community Relations Services. They are the ones who, like Shiloh Hendricks, are like, we couldn't get out in front of that. Let's go there and let's try to promote her as being a Nazi, promote her as being this and being that, or Austin Metcalf's dad coming out and saying you can't make this about race after some black kid murders his white son by stabbing him in the heart at like a sporting event. And he wasn't even supposed to be there. And why did he have a knife? And how did he stab him in the heart so that he dies 30 seconds later? And then his father, who is obviously on camera, has a gigantic black guy who is following him everywhere when he's doing press conferences and going out in public. And he won't have anger. He won't show anger towards what's happening. That's what this organization did. That's what this organization does and has done since it's part of the Civil Rights Act. If you want to get rid of it, you're either going to have, if you want to get rid of it completely, which is what you'd want to do, you'd have to have some legislation to at least amend the Civil Rights Act or get rid of the Civil Rights Act completely, which I think they should do. We should have done that years and years ago. It's a new constitution in the United States. Basically, Christopher Caldwell in his book, Age of Entitlement, I think it was Age of Entitlement, said that he explains how the Civil Rights Act just replaced the Constitution of the United States, and now everything is surrounded. Everything is centered around equality, and really, what it is an equality. It's basically a war on white people, and yeah, that was done yesterday. And Orrin went on Jenna Ellis's radio show, and he did some interview with the Blaze yesterday talking about it. But when people are concentrating on Elon and Trump having a stupid argument, they don't realize that this basically war on America, this agency that's fomented a war on America. I mean, pallets of bricks. How do those show up to? How do pallets of bricks show up to protests? Now, everybody's talking about, oh, you see these two guys going back and forth. Look, Elon's completely out of the game now. Look, Elon doesn't know how to play politics. Trump's being Trump. No, there's something way more important here that we should be concentrating on, and you're being distracted by stupidity.
And it seems, they're always doing this deflection, and I didn't even know about that. What's it called again?
Community Relations Service. Yeah, it's part of the Department of Justice under the Civil Rights Act, and their goal is to go in when a crime against a white person has happened, to shape the narrative so it doesn't seem like it's a quote unquote, I don't like the term hate crime at all. I think crime is crime. Hate crime is just hate crime is just there to apply it so that you can make the punishment worse for certain groups, which are always white people. When white people do something against a black person, it's a hate crime or whomever. But when a black person, there was a guy who was killed by Somalis up in Lewiston, Maine, and white guy. I mean, CRS was right on the scene. spinning it immediately, so you didn't hear about it. And it was they were screaming, white, all kinds of white hatred. So, I mean, as much as I like drama and as much as I like gossip, more, just as much as the next person, just as much as the next American, I see a lot of this as just a distraction away from really important things. And I noticed that a lot in Trump's first, what is this, 4 months, 5 months? Is every time you start talking about something that he could possibly do that could probably make change, it's automatically, you know, some kind of slop comes up where you're just like, oh, I guess the slop and watching people argue and, um, you know, culture war stuff that really is, passe. People are more interested in that than, these government agencies that are basically secret cabals that are controlling the behavior and, the behavior of mobs and the reactions of individuals toward them.
Well, what is your assessment so far since he's taken office?
I think it's impossible to know. It's people want everything done at light speed because Trump is hyperbolic. Trump is like, oh, I'll end the Ukraine war on the first day. Anybody really believe that? I mean, I honestly think he probably could have if he wanted to, but does anybody think that Trump has that kind of will? Or, yeah, I just look, I don't think there are political solutions to anything anymore. So when I see him do things, there are some things that are defunded, some things here and that. The problem is that there's so much that you would have to do to change the government, to cut away pieces of the government, to do this and do that, that basically only by basically firing three-quarters of the government on like one day, you could actually see a result. Because I think what happens is people are like, oh, USAID went away, or the Department of Education is being whatever's happening, whatever announcements are being made. People are expecting to actually see a change in their life. When people look at politics, they're examining politics from how does this affect me? That's how they vote. That's how they think about politics. How does this affect me? And if something does actually change, but it doesn't affect you or you don't feel the effect of it, you're not going to know whether something's changed. I'm not saying anything has changed. I'm not saying that any significant change is being made. My question is, how would you know? I mean, they could get on TV and say, okay, we've eliminated this department. Like, what does that mean? What does that mean to you? So if they get rid of the Department of Education, but you don't have any kids, how does that affect you? How would you even know? What would be the difference? They cut Social Security and you're not on Social Security. How would you know? If they raise Social Security, how would you know? If they got rid of departments in the government that were taking up a whole lot of money, but they weren't departments that were affecting you on a regular basis. How would you know? I'm not saying there's been this immense change. What I'm saying is that I think there could be immense change. And the only way most people would realize that there was immense change is because they're being told there was, because it doesn't affect them. And I don't think most politics would affect people. I think if the police force in your town shut down, that would affect you. I think if the court system in your local court system, if they removed all the traffic lights in your locality, that would affect you. How does anything up there affect you? And for the people who were like, well, I'm just really worried about the economy. I mean, first of all, how much do you know about economics? How much do you know about the history of the 20th century? What was done? What do you know? How would you know if tariffs are affecting you when prices have been going up for the last 5 years? How do you know tariffs would make prices higher? It would just seem like the progression that you've been witnessing anyway. I think people really need to figure out what's most important to them. My most important thing is, I would say, immigration at this point, and remigration. That there are millions and millions of people upon millions of people that needs to be removed from this country. How would I know? Say they started getting rid of 100,000 people a day. How would I know? Unless, like, my neighbors, I saw, people who lived around me, but I don't live around immigrants at all. How would you know? Because someone's telling you. No, what if you don't believe them? There are people out there who are like, yeah, no matter what they tell me, I'm not going to believe it. So how would you know? Getting rid of, like, the amount of people that needs to be removed from this country is probably in the tens of millions, probably 30 to 40 million. Until you start seeing housing prices going down, which means that homeowners are going to lose on the value of their houses, but renters, you'll see rental properties going down because you're removing the market for it, which is why big businesses and people, big business is not your friend. They don't want people outside of the country. They want the largest customer base they can have. They want another billion. They want 1 billion people in the United States. You'll even hear that number every once in a while. This country, we need 1 billion people. How would you know? How would you know things are getting better? Oh, well, my investments are going up. Okay, but I mean, anyone who's been in the stock market for any period of time knows the stock market goes up and goes down, it goes up and goes down. How would you know? I guess that's my question to most people at this point is, if you want to judge Trump's first 5 months, how would you know? Because you only know what you're being told. So I think yesterday it said there were 29,000. I read something today, 29,000 people were either arrested or removed from the country yesterday. Okay, how do we know? How do we know it wasn't 20,000? How do we know it wasn't 10,000? How do we know it wasn't 50,000? How do you know? I mean, literally, we're trained SEALs reacting to information that we can't verify, which is why I've pretty much gone back to talking about philosophy and history, because at least I can pull a book off the shelf and go, oh, it says that here. I mean, I don't know that that happened. 99% of history has been lost. I mean, think about the towns that, think about the town my ancestors grew up in Spain and Eastern Europe, and the no history was written of those towns. Most of those towns don't have a written history. You don't know what happened in those towns, and if something was passed down, it was passed down, playing a telephone, and it's probably changed 20,000 times. How do you know? You just don't. It's people are stressing over things that they have no idea about. Really, the only way at this point, I don't even know if people would realize if things that got better anymore, because they're so indoctrinated to expect the worst. And that's when you would know if things got worse. But okay, what needs to get worse? What needs to happen in order for you to believe that things have gotten worse? Usually, most of the time, it's a reaction from government. It's Joe Biden giving a speech in front of a red background with stormtroopers on either side, saying that basically anybody who supported Trump was a fascist, was semi fascist. Then you're like, oh, okay, that somehow affects me. That's a threat. That's something I can feel. When it comes to politics, Yeah, how do you even know?
The only thing you can measure it by is, I mean, to where you would feel it is going to the grocery store or going out to eat, or it's one of the things.
Right. Granted. But then again, is that people will be like, oh, the prices are going up because of the tariffs. I mean, the prices have been going up for the last 5 years. There were no tariffs in place. So how do we know that that's just that's not a carryover? Yeah. So still, it's you can here's something else. You can recognize something's happening for better or for worse, but can you really point to what caused it? In most cases, no. In most cases, no. Unless it's something like insanely tangible, where you're being threatened, or I mean, it just I've come to the conclusion that I'm not going to worry about stuff that I have no control over, first of all, and I'm not going to, people are like, well, this whole Palantir thing, which, I mean, I've known about this since 2008. There's really nothing coming out. And plus, Alex Karp is telling you that they used Palantir to take down all the right wing organizations in Europe. Alex Karp, somebody who has said, I am a Marxist, and somebody who has somebody who is owner in a company that is public, is telling you we're doing a really good job, and you're actually going, and we're doing this, and now we're putting together all this, and you're going to believe him. I mean, whenever anybody else who comes out who owns a public company and says something about how great the product is doing, and that's when I sell. Sorry, that's when I sell, because it sounds to it sounds to me like they're getting ready to sell, because they don't ever tell you everything's going, oh, everything's going so smoothly. They want you to buy while they're selling. They want you to sell while they're buying. Um, so, I mean, how would I know? People are like, oh, aren't you worried that, Palantir is going to get all this information on you, and then things that you've talked about, international Jewish power, and how many people of Jewish descent were in the Biden White House and in his cabinet, and that he had a Secretary of State and an Attorney General, and that they cracked down on Catholics, and really only Catholics. Aren't you worried they're going to come after you? Or what am I supposed to do? Tell me how I'm supposed to worry about that or prepare for that. Should I leave the country? Should I go, to some based country or something like that? So-called. What am I going to do? I'm going to sit around and worry about stuff. I don't believe half the stuff I don't believe 90 to 95% of the stuff I see in in the news. I really go off of intuition. I'm like, all right, that makes sense. Somebody is saying something that is really against their self-interest. If somebody's admitting something that seems to be against their self-interest, I'm willing to believe in that more than I'm willing to believe somebody bragging about something that happened, or saying you know I think it's all intuition, and I think in many cases we're doing a lot too much thinking, because we forget that politics is basically about lying. I mean, they lie.
And now,
So
and now with social media and whatnot, I mean, it's just so much easier to put these narratives out. And to your point with Palantir, I don't know. I mean, they could track us all well before this, in my opinion. They could look at your credit
oh
card.
yeah,
I mean, like, I got a cell
they
phone.
know. I mean, this is what I've told a lot of the people who follow me on Twitter and or in my live streams and stuff like that. They all have fake names. The term anon. They're anons.
Yeah.
Um, I understand being anonymous on social media to protect you from private violence, like people who are, like Antifa groups, although Antifa groups get their intelligence from somewhere, or things like. But I've told these people, I'm like, if you think that you're on Twitter or X now, whatever we want to call it, with a fake name and and a burner email address, and you don't think that the government knows who you are and where you are, I mean, I don't understand that level of naive. They know what we're all doing. I mean, they're not monitoring us actively, but I mean, as early as 2008, I had heard all the stories about how they wanted to spy on us, but they can't do it domestically. So they farmed it out to England. So basically, they collect all of our metadata, every text, every email, everything that goes out there, every tweet, every Facebook post, and it gets stored as metadata on a foreign server. And then if they want to investigate you, they go after that metadata. I mean, they know where it comes from. They know, I mean, oh, I have a VPN. Oh, who owns a VPN company? Oh, you have Proton Mail. Oh, that's good. Me too. Actually, I do like Proton Mail. Yeah, but I'm not. We have a based group chat on Telegram where we can say anything we want. Really, what's his name? He's a Belgian. He's in Belgium. Dries van. I think his name is Dries van Langenhoven. Yeah, I mean, he was an elected politician in Belgium who was arrested because other people were posting offensive memes in his Telegram channel. And he spent close to $100,000 trying to keep himself out of jail. Oh, yeah, yeah. Everything's you could be private all you want. I mean, if you get off the grid, maybe. They do have drone technology now and satellite technology. I mean, they can still see you, when you're going out to your outhouse to take a dump. So, or you're burying guns in your backyard.
I've come across two people they're like, I'm not getting that real ID because, then they'll be able to track you. I'm like, yeah. My friend Matt Smith and I are talking. Like, do you have a passport? If you have a passport, they could, and I do. But I mean, I have a show, credit card. If you have a credit card, they can track you. They could look at your bank statement at any given moment.
I mean, people are. I've heard people say, because do you know what clear is in the airports? You know what TSA pre-check is? Do you know what clear is?
Yeah.
Yeah. They scan your eyes, and everything. That's the way. And yeah, I had clear for a while when I used to travel a lot. Because it's really nice to be able to get to the airport like 20 minutes before your flight takes off and not have to, wait in line. And people are like, oh, that's facial recognition, all that stuff and everything. It's like, do you have a driver's license? Did you take a picture? What are we doing here? And there's people on the internet who are making a good living, crying about this stuff. I mean, I came to the conclusion a long time ago, and I'm not telling you have to have the same attitude I do, that privacy's dead.
Gone.
Privacy's dead. They can know. I mean, it's been dead for years. Do you remember that movie, Will Smith movie? I think it was 1999, Enemy of the State.
I just watched it maybe like 2 weeks ago.
Amazing, right? Like amazing.
Tony
movie.
Scott, directed by Tony Scott, Gene Hackman, John Voight.
Gene Hackman. Oh, it was just a beautiful movie. Okay. So I ran into somebody who was in the intelligence community at that, when that movie, around the time that movie came out. And he's like, and I'm talking to him about that movie, and he's just laughing. He's like, all the technology in there is 15 years old. At the time that movie came out. He's like, they're not going to tell you about the technology they have right now. That technology is 15 years old. The technology they were using to track them to apartment buildings and everything, yada
Cameras at
yada.
the cameras at the gas station.
Oh, yeah. I mean, come on. Yeah, and Europe's always the one who Europe's always the one that does this. I remember I was in Europe in 2001. I'm not going to say what country I was in, but I went to a restaurant. They they checked me out on a tablet with a swipe. When did we get those here? Wasn't in 2001. I mean, they've been under surveillance over there for a long, for a long, long time. They test everything out over there. I remember going over there, being over there in like 2002, and borrowing a friend of mine's cell phone to call home, to call back to the States. I remember the cell phone being clearer, having a clearer connection than like the my home line. You know, when I still had a ground line in, you know, here. I mean, they're just, they've just been under surveillance, and you know, and the reason they do that, I assume, is so that when they're spying on people, they, you know, they can hear clearly and see clearly. So, I mean, the fact that there are people still out there buying courses on here's how you can stay private. Okay, good luck with that.
What what about if you have a ring camera in your house? You don't think they can access that if they want to?
I mean, some of the worst videos I've seen are ring camera videos, you know, crimes and murders and stuff like that. And you don't, well, you know, that only goes to the that only goes to the alarm company. That only goes to the security company. Really, what do they do with it? Oh, they destroy it. Okay. Okay.
Well, what about, even, on the business side, Salesforce, HubSpot? Like, you don't think that's data mining for all of this?
Everything is data mining. Everything. I mean, I won't say what platform we're on right now, but this is owned by China. This platform is owned by China. I was on a platform. I used to use a platform that was owned by Ukraine. It was a Ukrainian platform. I mean, people say, oh, you know, and I mean, doesn't every like most of the companies in this country still use the platform we're on right now, right? For like their conference calls and like and stuff like that. And they consider China to be an enemy, right? It's wild that we're so naive, and we you know, we take so much for granted. We bought into that whole you know, there are still I still every once in a while people see someone like, I mean, I assume it's instinctive and say, yeah, but it's a free country. By what metric are we? What are we using here? what are we going by? Are we going by 1776 when you had 13 independent countries, or 1789 when it sort of became a federation, or after the Civil War when they openly tried to encourage blacks to exterminate whites in the South, or post World War II where you're not even allowed to be an American. You're not even allowed to be right wing anymore. What's this freedom metric we're talking about here?
But Pete, you can't make it easy for people either. That's what they come back with. That's their response. Well, yes, I have a credit card, but I'm not gonna make it easy for them to track me. And I'm like, why fight this? There's other things you can fight. Why even surrender this? I had a woman say, she goes, well, as long as there's a constitution, I'm not gonna, I'm protected. I'm just like, oh,
I mean, it's the social engineering regime since World War II to just the more restrictions they put on speech and on actions and freedom of association, and then the Patriot Act, the NSA, TSA, I mean, I remember when the TSA came into existence, and they said the reason we need the TSA is because we need to remain free. It's like, here's what you do: you still have like a couple of TSA agents, but how about you check like people who don't look American? Because as far as I know, when it comes to like airline quote unquote terrorism, there are a lot of white boys who were doing it. Even in the 70s when like airliners were being hijacked and stuff like that. Oh, fly me back to Cuba, fly me to Puerto Rico and everything. There was something very similar about most of the people who've done this over our history, but no, everybody has to suffer for it, and I'm sure they're gathering information on us as we do it. And you know, uh, at this point, it's like, okay, well, what can you do? You just deal with it. You just bend over and take it. Basically, I hate flying. I've flown. I don't think I flew last year at all, but I've flown a few times this year. I wanted to go out of the country once, want to go on vacation, and then there was just a situation where it was easier to fly than it was to drive. And you if you have to mentally prepare yourself, if you have to emotionally prepare yourself to travel, to walk through an airport and to get on a plane because you're going to be dealing with the McDonald's workers of the sky lording it over you and wanting to look through your stuff and looking upon you as, if you like you're you're inconveniencing them. I mean, I just can't. I mean, I say this all the time, and it really isn't an insult, and it isn't me thinking that I'm anything great. But these people are beneath me. Why do I have to be forced to interact with them? Oh, well, if you want to fly, that's what you have to do, says the slave.
I flew last week, and I have these. I wear like comfortable clothes when I'm flying, right? I don't wear jeans or because you're sitting for a while, and like I always wear tennis shoes, and so I bought a new pair of shorts, like summer casual shorts, because these like pants I would wear, they would always go off, always. So I'm like, all right, I'm buying a new pair. These are like sweats that I bought from TJ Maxx. They go off right in the groin area. So now I got to get basically a hand job by this guy, right? And I go, and I'm just venting to him. I don't even know. He just ignored me. I said, this is why I don't want to fly. This exact reason is why I hate this. You get treated like a caged animal.
I mean, and it's not like your average TSA. Notice I said average. It's not like your average TSA employee is you're going to have strike up a conversation about Russian history with. No, you're talking about people who, if there was no TSA, they wouldn't even be working at the post office. They'd be lined up at Burger King or most likely unemployed. It's just another government jobs program, and most of the people who do it are just I mean they wouldn't be they can't do anything else, and they're really bad at their job. They do tests all the time and they miss guns and they miss all sorts of things. They miss small things too. I've had, you're only allowed to have a bottle of a certain amount of ounces because, apparently if you go on a plane, everyone's easily going to take out their carry-on luggage and, make a bomb on the plane. But yeah, I've gotten ones passed that were way past the regular amount. They don't catch it. it's just it's one, a show, and two, a jobs program. And yeah, at this point, people are like, I remember when Trump got into office and they're like, oh, Doge is going to cut everything. And I'm like, yeah, yeah. Immediately first day, you should have fired 2.2 million people. That's the number I had. It was 2.2 million people could have been fired the first day. It's like, oh, what about the unemployment? I don't care. Oh, taxes? I don't care. Oh, I don't care. Go. Just, this would take this would take forever. Just start going through all of the government agencies and what they do, and tell me if we need them to be a country. 2.2 million the first day. Gone. Gone. And we wouldn't even, we probably, and like I was saying earlier, probably wouldn't even notice what would change. Oh, I mean, these people would be out of a job. Okay. I don't care. I wonder how many people lost jobs in 2020, or people who lost their businesses, people who lost their lives in 2020. I don't care. Are all complicit in that, and I don't care what department they're in. They have to go. So I just don't. I have zero sympathy because these are all just jobs programs. They're not keeping us safe. They're not doing. There's nothing there. And really, the airlines should be responsible for safety on their flights. And we know real quick which airlines not to take it, not to take, and which ones to take. So
It's been so long. I don't remember what it was like before TSA.
I remember, I remember going and like walking up to the gate and picking people up from the airport. I remember that. I remember getting off the plane and being greeted right at the gate. I remember walking into Fort Lauderdale Airport and just walk. There was no metal. I mean, it might have been metal detectors, but you didn't have to. You could go into the gate section without actually having a ticket. So you could help people get off the plane. I mean, let's talk about another jobs program. Oh, if you need, we're boarding now, even if you have a first class ticket, these people who need all this assistance to get on, go on before you, and then just cause a line and everything. And that's another just jobs program, the people pushing friggin' wheelchairs when it should be their family doing that. You don't need these people. That's just another jobs program. I remember, when you fly domestically, normally, you may have 3 or 4 wheelchairs or something. I remember flying internationally earlier this year. There was like 25 wheelchairs that I had to wait out before getting on the plane.
That's like an hour and a half in and of itself.
I mean, I just don't. What that? I mean, I was wondering. I'm like, why are we boarding the flight an hour and 15 minutes before takeoff? Oh, 25 friggin' wheelchairs. Ugh. I mean, this is. I don't know how we got on this track, but
No, because and this stuff, it never goes away either. But people really thought, well, like, they thought this in new administration, like, oh, do away with TSA. It's never going to happen. It's here to stay.
yeah, I don't think people understand how. And I think the reason why they're here to stay more than anything is because if you're something like the community relations service, people don't know you exist, so no one knows to lobby for you to get rid of you. But people have emotional attachments to other things, other organizations like the TSA. Oh, well, I mean, I don't want bombs on my plane. I don't want, hijackers on my plane. No, that's not what that's there for. Um, there are all these departments of government that just make what do we do without the FBI? Probably have a lot less mass shootings and bombings and terrorist attacks. Considering, there was a really good book written by an awful person. Trevor, I think his name is Trevor Aronson, wrote the Terror Factory. And it basically goes to show how, like, in the 2000s, when the government was, you know, basically wanted to legitimize and, provide reason for rationalize why government has grown so much and anti-terrorism has grown so much, and you have all these anti-terror groups. The FBI just, like, would find some lunatic, teach them how to shoot, teach them how to build bombs, and then when they moved and tried to do something, they would arrest them. They would literally, like, radicalize the person, and then, when they teach him how to build a bomb, and then arrest him when they went to do it. And this whole book is about that. The reason I call him a horrible person was at the ending of the book, he says, and the group he goes, this is all terrible, but we have to realize that the group in this country that we most have to worry about truthfully and honestly, that all the violence is coming from, is white men.
So negated the whole message.
Yeah. I mean, the whole book is about all of these Middle Eastern teens that they radicalized. And how did they radicalize them? They didn't say, oh, well, look at America. They have blue jeans and the women wear bikinis. No, they said, oh, look, the United States is bombing your home, where your family's from. That's like this is when it really struck me. Remember the Pulse nightclub shooting?
That was the one in Florida, right?
Omar Mateen.
Is that the gay nightclub?
Yeah. Shows up at a gay nightclub. I think they say 53 dead. And because he hated gay people. No. Sorry. They made the mistake of putting his wife on trial. They put his wife on trial. Oh, you knew this was going to happen. And what came out in the trial? He was radicalized because he kept reading stories about how they were bombing his home country, how the United States was bombing his home country. And he went to, first, he didn't go to the Pulse nightclub first. He went to a Disney theme park and a nightclub outside of a Disney theme park. Looked at it and said, they have armed security here. Literally gets on his phone and Googles Orlando nightclubs. Sees the Pulse nightclub. He's like, oh, let's go check. That's close. Let's go check that out. Drives there. Starts walking around. Literally asks one of the unarmed security there, where are the women? He didn't go there because they were gay. He went there because they had no armed security. So it's like, I mean, like everything we know, and there, I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm just thinking about it. I wouldn't be surprised if we were able to get FOIA requests from the Community Relations Service. We could find out the Community Relations Service was on the ground and was pushing that narrative that he was anti-gay. They tried to make it so, like, in the next couple of weeks that, oh, he had been in gay chat rooms saying he was gay. Oh, and his wife was saying he was gay. None of that. When they put his wife on trial, and thankfully she was found innocent because she didn't know he was planning to do anything like that. There's no evidence of that. It came out in that trial that he didn't go to that club because they were gay. He went to that club because they were unarmed, and it was the closest thing to the place he had originally wanted to go to. And the gay community lost their shit. Now, I know that they, lose their shit because of prolapse and things like that normally. But they lost their shit because this was their day. This was, we're a victim. Now we don't get to claim victimhood anymore. But ironically, the only article I ever read that really the first article that I read that detailed that this wasn't about him being homophobic, but it was about Israeli about Freudian slip, Israeli American foreign policy was in the HuffPo, was in Huffington Post. They're the only ones that covered the trial at the time. I mean, it's we can't we can't believe anything at this point. We just can't. But we also have to accept that politics isn't going to be the answer. It's just not. It can't be the answer. That's, I'm watching Elon Musk Spurg on Twitter.
Somebody, let me interrupt you. Somebody sent me something, an image that Elon put. Time to drop the really big bomb. This is on X at 3:10 p.m. Eastern. Real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That is a real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day, Donald J. Trump.
Who tweeted that?
Elon. I just got a screenshot, so I haven't. You looking it up? And then he puts a comment. And then he puts a comment underneath it. It says, "Mark this post for the future. The truth will come out."
Elon, let's
breaking news. Breaking news with P. Quiñones and I right now. Had to bring that up as we're recording, right?
Let's see. Epstein. Well, I mean, this is good slop. So
I'm just pulling up the actual.
Time to drop the really big bomb. At real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. This is the real reason they have a nice day, DJT. Yeah, and that's Elon Musk's actual Twitter account. Wow. I mean, I figured what the reason they haven't released it is because they're redacting all of the people who are probably in the administration and still in the administration that they consider to be allies. But I don't know.
I don't know. I figured at this point with that list, I mean, it's been scrubbed so many times. There's probably nothing. It's probably blank at this point. They've had it for how long?
Yeah, that was an hour ago. So I mean, I think, shoot, I was still recording my other. Wow. Oh no, we were talking.
Yeah, we've been talking now for almost an hour.
Holy crap! I mean, you realize if that's not true, that's libelous.
I mean, he's just going flat out nuclear right now.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what to say. If you're gonna, there's having autism and spurging out, and then there's just absolutely just destroying your relationship with the quote unquote leader of the free world.
Do you see the tweet right above it? That was 1 minute ago. Let me read this to you. He's responding to you pulling it up, or you want me to read it to you?
No, go ahead, read it.
Donald Trump posted, must have been on Truth Social. The easiest way to save money in our budget, billions and billions of dollars, is to terminate Elon's governmental subsidies and contracts. I was always surprised that Biden didn't do it. So Elon takes a screenshot of that and says, in light of the president's statement about cancellation of my government contracts, SpaceX will begin decommissioning its Dragon spacecraft immediately.
Which is the Dragon? I don't know.
I don't know that one either.
I'm assuming it has something to do with the military.
Dragon spacecraft.
Dragon spacecraft, SpaceX. Family of spacecraft used for space missions, including transporting cargo and crew to the International Space Station. Well, I mean, I guess he's one of those. This is going to be one of those insanely messy divorces.
It's almost, it's like we're talking. I keep looking down because who knows what he's going to put up in another 5 minutes or so.
I mean, I saw the Epstein list a few years ago, and I didn't see Donald Trump's name on it. So I also questioned a couple of the names that I saw on it. But
how'd you see it? Was it out there? I mean, it's obviously out
Oh,
there.
it's been out there forever. Ryan Dawson's been compiling
Mm.
that list forever.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, he wrote about. I think his first article he wrote about Epstein was in 2006. I mean, he's been doing this for. I mean, he's almost going on 20 years now. So he's basically compiled everything and went through all the affidavits. Went through everything. Now, I'm not saying that everybody, but everyone who's ever been named in an affidavit or um, in a deposition or something, he's collected those names. So, but yeah, and I don't think Ryan's added anything or subtracted anything in the last 3 years, and he's pretty meticulous about his research, and usually doesn't make stuff public until unless he's 100% sure. But then again, Ryan also talks about Israel, and so that basically in a lot of people's opinions, that nukes his credibility. So whatever. Yeah.
There's like certain bumpers with people, and that's one of them, right? Where you can't. Mike Benz is another. You can't. Mike Benz is pro-Israel. You can't talk about. I don't think you can talk about Israel with him. If you criticize it,
No. Yeah. Yeah. You can't bring up Israel with him. I've always said that, like, when people want to talk about conspiracy theories and they want to talk, like, I'm sure you've probably seen the videos of Yuri Bezmenov. Those get shared with me all the time. Yeah. I'm sorry. If you're going to talk about Russian history and what's happened in the West, and you don't mention Jewish involvement and Israeli involvement and like Jewish involvement in the Bolshevik Revolution or the 1905 attempted revolution in Russia, I'm not listening to you. I'm sorry, you're not being honest. You're just not in the game. I mean, the 19 like I'm going over the 1905 revolution on my podcast right now, and every single name, and none of these, every single name, every single one of them is, you're just like, they mention a school. Oh, and the revolution was being organized out of this school in Odessa, and then you go and you like look at the enrollee list, and you're like, come on, come on. You look at the list of the professors and the names of the professors, you're like, come on, come on. So yeah, Mike Benz is like, I, I've listened to Mike Benz, and I think he puts some information out there, but I think he's a limited hangout in many ways. Yuri Bezmenov is the same way, but I mean, if you don't mention like Jewish power, I mean this, and what's crazy is go find newspapers from the 1920s all over the world. This was an open discussion that was being had. People were talking about Jewish power everywhere. The power, the Balfour Declaration, 1917, what was being done in Weimar. I mean, the State Department in the United States, two Supreme Court justices in the United States. All this stuff was being talked about openly. Then World War II happened. Hey, you can't talk about it no more.
I've said it so many times on here, and in regards to October 7th, there's no way, that stretch of land that's got cameras and not a blind spot on it, there's no way that they did not know of Hamas and an attack.
Well,
not to spend an hour talking about this. I know I'm kind of running out of time here with you, but like, and I feel like we talked about it before. But
yeah, if you want to steelman that, you can always say that. Okay, so this security package system this is basically the security that was over that whole area. Okay. It's commercial. It's a commercial package that Israel sells to other countries. If you really want to steelman it and go, okay, well, no, it wasn't an invasion. They just lie about how good it is. They just lied about how foolproof it was. The Iron Dome is not foolproof. They tell you, oh, the Iron Dome, every country has to have the Iron Dome. Every free country that could possibly come under attack. Well, I think Iran did a pretty good job of showing the Iron Dome is not going to. I think it was subsonic missiles that they sent. I think they sent 190 and 155 of them landed. So I don't believe anything. I don't believe when they say, "Oh, this technology keeps us completely safe and everything." It's like, well, I mean, but I do understand the argument that they let them attack so that it could be a false flag. Um, I mean that does seem to make sense, but you're also I'm not saying I want to give any credit to Hamas, but you're also saying that Hamas couldn't possibly do it. How could anyone possibly outsmart the high IQ Israelis, where the average IQ is 92? How could they outsmart these people? Well, I mean, I think most people are full of shit when they talk about how good their security is, and a lot of technology, especially if you're selling it to other countries. And I think you're not giving enough credit to the other side that they can actually pull something off like that. But understand that the whole lie behind, oh, they were stopping, they had an invasion and they were stopping to rape women and they were stopping. Can we please not? They were killing babies. Can we please not? They were killing concert goers. They've admitted, even if they don't want to report on it in this country, Israeli papers have admitted that they instituted the Hannibal Protocol, where they say we don't want hostages taken. So if you have a chance to kill a bad guy and they have a hostage, it's okay to kill the hostage too. Now they had hostages taken because you're not everything's going to be perfect, but it's also interesting that there was a plan on the table to release those hostages 7 days later, and after October 7th, and Israel didn't take it, and it wouldn't have it wasn't like they were telling Israel that they had to like get out of Gaza. I don't remember the exact how the plan was exactly laid out, but all I've heard for since then is release the hostages, and they've had a chance to have those hostages released. Plans have been on the table over and over and over again. And I'm sorry, the Israelis have those hostages there because it is just another way that they play the victim. It's another way for them to be able to go, look, they won't release the hostages. Yeah, but there was a plan in the week. No, you're an anti-Semite. Okay. Well, I mean, I guess we're not here to have a conversation. Because if that's what you do. I bring up like I bring up Jewish history all the time because I consider that they've taken over this government. When you look at AIPAC, Thomas Massey says everyone has an AIPAC babysitter. I mean, anti-Semitism laws are being passed in states that have 500 Jews in them. Something's going on. So I'm like, okay, I need to study these people. I need to know about their history. And then I go and I read their history and I'm like, oh, so they said in these quote unquote pogroms that happened in 1905, which was really just revolutionaries starting violence. And then when they get their asses kicked, when the Russians rise up and kick their asses, they scream, oh, we're being pogromed. And I mean, like the press in the West, like in Germany, I remember they were like 1 day into revolutionary activity, and the press in Germany was already saying, with no reports of anything, that like 20,000 Jews had been killed and girls were being raped and children were being raped and stuff like that. Then there was another one where they were saying, oh, they cut the baby out of a pregnant woman and baked it. This was in a Russian newspaper in 1904. The Russians cut the baby out of a pregnant woman and baked it, and then they drove nails into her head. And I'm like, I remember the nails in the head story from the 1940s. You use that one again, and then the babies being cut out and baked. That was 2023. I remember that one. So you recycled that one. Sorry.
No, no, I was I just happened to look again at Elon,
Yeah.
and he reshares. I don't. He reposts. Who's A.G. Hamilton? I don't know who A.G. Hamilton is. But A.G. Hamilton writes, the relationship between Trump and Epstein is well established. Trump flew on Epstein's plane at least 7 times, though it's not clear he ever went to the island. Here's what Trump said about Epstein in 2002 New York Magazine profile. Epstein likes to tell people that he's a loner, a man who's never touched alcohol or drugs, and one whose nightlife is far from energetic. And if you talk to Donald Trump, a different Epstein emerges. I've known Jeff for 15 years, terrific guy. Trump booms from a speakerphone. He's a lot of fun to be with. It's even said he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it, Jeffrey enjoys his social life.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think that they have that on audio. I think I've seen Trump say that on video, that they actually have video of him saying that. So, yeah, I mean, this is scorched earth at this point.
How long will
I
this
mean,
continue for, do
it's
you think?
hopefully not much longer, but it's like this is one of those things that when you get, if you ever been in a fight with a woman and you're saying stuff to hurt each other, you're saying stuff to hurt each other, and everything's fine, and then you cross the line. I think the line's been crossed. So I don't know. I don't know how long this will go on for, but what I'm saying is when you bring up the Epstein thing, I don't think there's any coming back from that. Just like saying, and yeah, every time I said that you look good in that dress, I thought you look fat or something like that. It's not. No.
Well, especially the president of the United States, right? Like the president of the United States, you've just said is on the list, and that's why it wasn't released. Like that's you're going against the United States government.
Well, I mean, we know that the fix is in. I mean, Bongino and Cash Patel basically saying, "Oh no, we know that Epstein didn't kill himself," and I mean, it's so obvious at this point. It's the same reason that we're not going to find out who killed JFK. It's the same reason we're not going to find out about Epstein. It all goes back to this tiny little country in the Middle East that has overwhelmingly had overwhelming representation and control over this country since maybe not 1948, but definitely I would say early 70s. Yeah.
The Diddy stuff mean anything to you?
Other than it coming out that one of the hired male prostitutes was someone who's been on my show, was on my old show many times. Not really, no. Well, I mean, I knew that he was a male prostitute, a gigolo. He was on the TV show, on the Showtime show, Gigolos and everything. It was just weird to see that, but no, it doesn't really. I mean, I'm sure there's some other form of control, and anyone who's honest knows who controls the music industry and Hollywood in general. So, I mean, I think it's all the same thing. I think it's all a small group, not all of them, but a small cabal of people who share a certain background, same background, who basically have the goods on a lot of powerful people, whether it be political, whether it be social, whether it be entertainment. They have the goods on a lot of them. So,
Yeah,
I mean, it's yeah.
the only thing I was interested in that is from the entertainment standpoint of who on the celebrity side might have participated, because I was in college when, you know, Tupac got killed, B.I.G. got killed, Puff Daddy then blew up, and later on the nightclub with Jennifer Lopez. And I mean, I was listening to all that stuff. So it like made you, with Jay-Z, was LeBron James being from Northeast Ohio, who
Well, when
participated.
when I found out that Tupac was gay, that was when, like, you're just like, all right, there's something really weird here. It's, I mean, I had always heard that most of the black, like, rappers and R&B stars and everything were all, in the closet. And, one of the reasons you'd want someone like that is because they're more apt to do things that would compromise them. They've done something in the past that's compromising to them that they don't want to get out. But yeah, finding out Tupac, seeing the interviews on YouTube of Tupac when he's like 17 years old and still in high school, and you're just like, oh, this is a gay boy. And you're like, oh, wonder what this is all about. Still never really looked into the whole, I mean, obviously he was promoting a message, and he was promoting a message for a certain group of people. But the fact that he had to do it from a masculine, pro-black kind of stance when he was obviously a extremely gay man, it makes you wonder.
I didn't know that.
Why he had to die. Oh yeah, just look up Tupac. Look up on YouTube Tupac. Young Tupac interview. Oh, he is lisping and prancing, and oh yeah.
It's on YouTube.
I mean, and here's a, yeah, and here's the thing about it is, so normally I was in the music industry for a while. I played in bands and stuff like that, and I saw like these young kids who would come out of like their families and everything, and they were very straight presenting, very much talk, just normal. And as soon as they got around gay people, they would it would start coming out. This effeminate nature was. I mean, maybe someone can tell me when you watch the video of Tupac how someone goes from that to like street thug. Because that's not normal. That it's usually in the other direction. Punked out and then become like that. It just doesn't make any sense to me. There was obviously a reason for it. And if you can watch those videos and tell me that Tupac is not gay, just contact me, Michael. I want you to watch the video and tell me what you think, and tell me if I'm wrong or I'm just reading into it.
As soon as we get done, I'm going to watch that. Got time to talk about Russia, Ukraine for a few minutes?
Sure.
What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on what Putin may or may not do?
I mean, I don't think Putin's going to stop the war, no matter what Trump does. I wouldn't. This wasn't Ukraine who did this. This was NATO, EU. There is no reason why Ukraine would target basically planes that are meant to fly fly long distances. These are basically for international warfare. There's no reason for Ukraine to want those, even as a trophy. Now, this was the EU and NATO who did this. Really, no one's gonna. Sorry, I've looked at it, thought about it, really thought about this hard. I've made up my mind on this. I don't, and really evidence. What kind of evidence am I going to show? I have a theory. I told Tom Luongo about this, and he said that he had to think about it. I talked to Tom last week. He was on the show. I know he's on your show all the time, too. Maybe run it by him next time you have him on. But I have a theory that Trump and Putin may have decided that Europe is the real enemy, that the EU, that NATO, that these countries are all the enemy, that they want to destroy the United States and they want to destroy Russia. And I think that's obvious from anyone who's listened to Tom Luongo and Martin Armstrong, people like that. They may be trying to give Europe their own Vietnam, to make Europe get involved, and Russia will just grind them down, like Russia's done with Ukraine, or force them into attacking Russia head on, which I don't think they'll do. So, this could possibly be, and this is my theory, and Tom said he had to think about it, but he thought that there was something there, that they're trying to just basically the same way people like Brzezinski orchestrated it so that Russia would invade Afghanistan in 1979 and basically lose to the Afghanis, and one of the things that would eventually lead to the destruction of Russia. That now the United States and Russia are going to get together to grind down Europe and make them as weak as possible. Because as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to the United States, the EU, um, NATO, and MI6, City of London, those are the real enemies of the United States. That's who we really need to be worried about.
Not the Chinese.
I mean, obviously the Chinese. The Chinese are an amoral people who are basically destroying the the Pacific Ocean right now, taking all the fish out of it, and pockets of these are they don't care. These people don't care about humanity, and I think China has to be dealt with at the same time. But if we, it's a little China. We're tied to China with goods. We're tied to the EU, or the EU now, even more so, seems to be tied with us when it comes to currency. So I think that's where the war is right now. But I think that the EU and all of their apparatchiks really want the United States and Russia to suffer. So that's who I see as the enemy.
What's on tap for you? Your next show?
Oh yeah, I'm releasing an episode tonight, interview episode with Cameron McGregor. He's a former military contractor, does VC work now. He's one of the co-hosts of the Backlash podcast, and basically talking about where we think the future of the United States is headed, how we solve these problems, and some ideas that he and I have that match up, plans that we've made for the future, and also some places where we differ, where we have discussions about just exactly where the United States is going, and what can be salvaged if we want anything to be salvaged as far as the American regime goes. I don't think we want anything to be salvaged from the American regime, but I think we want the nation to be salvaged, and there's a big difference between the two.
Can you share one thing that you guys had agreed on?
Agreed on that young men are fed up. They don't see a way forward, and they're coming together and forming groups, forming fraternities and fraternal organizations to organize, whether it be in the community, restoration, study history, things like that. Something that, with a group that I helped found, the Old Glory Club, some of the things that we concentrate on. And we see a lot more of those kind of groups popping up. Ours has already grown from 2 chapters 18 months ago to, I think we have 27 chapters all over the country right now. So people are wanting to organize and try to make more of a difference in their communities, as far as culture and and history goes.
Yeah, I've come across a few younger men that dropped out of college. They don't want to participate in the academia anymore.
Yeah, my wife's niece graduated high school a couple weeks ago. We went up for the graduation, and her boyfriend, his dad owns his own business, and I asked her, the young gentleman who was graduating with her, if he was going to college, and he said, no, I'm going to work with my dad. He goes, I'm going into the family business. And I told him, I said, that's probably the smartest thing you could do right now. Yeah, stay away from academia. It's the only, I mean, college and school is for specialized things. You want to become a lawyer, you want to become a doctor, obviously you're going to have to go through that. But, what liberal arts? What are you going to learn? I mean, there's no real reason to go. To, there's no real reason to send most kids to college nowadays, and I think that if you live in the South, if you get into HVAC, you're going to make a good living. Plumbing, butcher, things like that. I mean, the only reason you'd want your kids to go to college is, in my opinion, from what I know from my family, is so that your parents and grandparents have something to brag about. Hey, my kid went to college. Look at that degree on the wall. Who cares? It's a terrible place that kids become destroyed in.
I heard another good profession, man, elevator tech. Learn how to fix elevators. You'll
Yeah.
never be out of work. I never would have thought about that.
Yeah, elevators. There's so many of them out there. So many. I mean, literally, if you want to go to college now, go into nuclear. If AI and quantum computing and all these things are the future, they're going to need nuclear in order to do it. I mean, that's what all the people I listen to say. Smaller reactors, things like that. I mean, I think nuclear is the future. That's the only way those things are going to run. So.
Or you be an elevator tech. Make it. How many in a big city? How many people can fix an elevator in a big city? Can't be more than 100, I bet.
Yeah, yeah, that's if you want to live in a big city. I don't, and I realize people do, but
No, but just how few and far between they are, though. I mean, to actually somebody that
oh
can
yeah,
fix an elevator. like,
yeah. I mean, it is. I mean, I think it was the last real famous elevator guy was Otis, right?
where can people find you, Pete?
Quiñones show, all podcatchers, YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, um, PeteSubstack.com, and the Old Glory Club live streaming Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. So going to be live streaming in a couple hours here.
As always, everybody listening, make sure you go out and support Pete, become a paid subscriber on Substack, and I always thank you for making time for me, and it won't be too long for our next conversation. So thanks, Pete.
I appreciate it, Michael. Thank you.
Mic drop.